Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with another Total War Warhammer video. Today we're going to do something a little bit different, as yesterday's cafe and news was kinda a bit of a burnout for people, as it was pretty much the same information 3 times in a row, which is unfortunate, but hey, that's what Creative Assembly had planned. So let's look towards Tzeentch, as we can have a little bit of fun with this. Of course, with the confirmation of KAIROS Fateweaver as the legendary lord for Tzeentch. Keep in mind he hasn't been outright confirmed, but he featured on the trailer, so he's pretty much going to be the legendary lord. Then we can look towards many other missing Tzeentchian characters, which could be lords for the Demons of Tzeentch army, or maybe even for Warriors of Chaos, or even Norska. So let's take the time now to look over some of these characters. Keep in mind that I won't be including every repeated character in a sense, such as all the different types of Lords of Change and so on, because, well, you know, they're just pretty much reskins. We'll start things off with one of my personal favourite Tzeentchian characters, the Changeling. You see, the Changeling, as far as we are aware, is a Tzeentchian horror. He could be blue, pink, we don't really know too well, as really nobody has seen his true form in possibly millennia, or they have long forgotten about it. It's sometimes speculated that even Tzeentch himself might not even know the Changeling's true form anymore, as the Changeling has a rather special power. You can guess it by the name, but he can change into different forms. He can literally change his appearance to be that of a human, a bloodletter, anything really. This character was so special because he was able to infiltrate enemy lines and play the part of, say, for example, a trickster, where he would get armies to fight against each other, start riots within city walls, and, well, pretty much anything that you can imagine, just because that's what he did. He just went around and caused some mischief. That also translated into the tabletop, not just the lore, where he could get into a challenge and take the stats of anything that he was fighting. This kind of made this the strongest Tzeentchian character melee-wise if you were fighting, say for example, a Blender Vampire Lord or anything. In all honesty, I didn't think that it would be possible to see this character in the Total War series, mainly because of that transformation mechanic, but now since Cafe seems to have something very similar, it could be interesting, a mirror sort of transformation? It might be quite hard to balance, but then again, this character is supposed to be a tad different. He's supposed to take their abilities and all that. It's one of those characters which you've seen many times in different cartoons, animes, and so on, where he is a trickster, and yeah, that's what he does. He's supposed to be a bit strong. He could work very well for, say, for example, a legendary hero, but I think he'd be really fun as a legendary lord, and of course for the Tzeentchian faction, as he is a demon and he wouldn't really fit well with Norska or the Warriors of Chaos. Next, we're going to move on to a character that we were very much expecting in Warhammer 1, but yeah, we still haven't received him. Galrock, the Great Drake. So this is the first ever Chaos Dragon, born when the Lord of Change Fateclaw was devoured by a dragon, and then the essence of the demon itself worked its way into the dragon, possessing it. This is a really interesting character because in its lore, the dragon is still trying to fight back the demon, and it actually translates the same way in the tabletop, where sometimes the dragon will instantly attack itself because it's trying to break the bond. There was artwork floating about for Warhammer 1 which actively named him, so many people expected that he was going to be a legendary lord, or maybe even some sort of legendary hero. The concept didn't really exist back then. But this is a highly requested character, as he was fairly popular on the tabletop just because it was kind of memey. Imagining this very powerful Chaos Dragon which could also cast spells, but could then turn against itself. It was something different, but it was kind of to balance out the power level, as the dragon itself was very powerful. Granted, anything on a monster base was kind of crap, because just 8th edition was just horrible for monster units, but it was still really cool and extremely thematic. It would be awesome if we finally got this dragon, maybe for the Warriors of Chaos roster, as it would kind of be better, though the Tzeentchian one works too, but maybe as a legendary hero instead, it would be cool, where you can go on some rather long quest with a few different battles here and there to actively try and subdue the beast, maybe break the will of the standard dragon that's within, and have the demon become more powerful. Something like that would be awesome, as we do need a few more thematic quests. It would be nice. Plus, a legendary hero which is available to all lords of Tzeentch would be kind of fun at the end of the day, as we really don't have any legendary hero questlines that go throughout a whole faction at the moment, do we? Next, we're going to look at a character which is extremely unique, called Hellbrass. So this is a champion of Tzeentch, and many people might see him as something rather generic. However, this champion of Tzeentch was dramatically different from many other champions. For example, he had the Breath of Life, which would allow him to heal himself and others around him. As you can imagine, that's not common whatsoever through the lore of Tzeentch, as obviously Tzeentch focuses around different mutations and so on, whereas the Breath of Life, as you can imagine by the name, focused around healing. He also had an incredible sword known as the Windblade, which would allow him to fight extremely fast, also allowed him to fly, yes, you heard me correctly, fly, and he could also throw the weapon like if it was a sort of boomerang. Yeah, this was a very versatile weapon which made him extremely deadly on the battlefield. Lore-wise, he's a former Imperial and a former member of the Order of the Jade Griffin, but he found himself looking for more as he wasn't really fulfilled within the Empire, eventually falling to Tzeentch and going about a really long quest in an effort to not only find himself in a new sense, but also literally kill a mirror image of his former self, so he may be reborn anew. He's a really cool character, which was introduced very early into the lifespan of Warhammer Fantasy, but didn't really get too much stuff in the future editions. Honestly, I'd say that he'd work really well as a Warriors of Chaos, Tzeentchian Lord, or even just for the Tzeentch faction. I'd say that it'd be really cool if we got this guy as a DLC, as I believe that he'll be received quite well. He's so drastically different to what we know of Tzeentchian Lords that he is as unique as possible. Next, we're going to look at the Blue Scribes, a rather interesting character which I still yet to paint up. I'll get down to it eventually. But anyways, so the Blue Scribes are two blue horrors charged by Tzeentch on one of the most important tasks the Lord of Change can ever give out. You see, Tzeentch himself is magic. Anything about the winds and so on is directly linked to Tzeentch. Now, long ago, many moons ago, there was a time when Tzeentch was the most powerful of all the Chaos Gods, perhaps the most powerful god in the whole Warhammer Fantasy universe. It is said that the other Chaos Gods had turned on Tzeentch and shattered him into thousands and thousands of pieces. Each of those are the spells that we know of today. The Blue Scribes have been tasked to learn these spells, acquiring every known spell, and by doing so, will they be able to rebirth Tzeentch once again to the height of his former power. Now, obviously, all Tzeentchian demons are a little bit sneaky, so how it works is that one Blue Scribe can read the spells, and the other one can write the spells. This is so the Blue Scribes themselves, functionally, are very potent together, but without each other as a unit, then they are extremely weak, and they cannot decide to then turn on Tzeentch himself. This is a really fun character from the tabletop. Many people really did enjoy them, and I honestly think that they're super cool. Obviously, this is another Spellcaster Lord or hero choice, but yeah, I mean, this is Tzeentch. The big difference to most is that they will be riding atop a Disc of Tzeentch, which means that they should be able to fly and be extremely mobile. And obviously this works with the Tzeentchian faction as either a legendary lord or legendary hero. There's not too much to talk about these guys, but yeah, they're fun. Village the Cursling would obviously be the next topic here. So, these are conjoined twins. One of them is a sorcerer, that's the parasitic twin attached to the body, and the other is pretty much all brawn. Now, as it works in the lore, is that the sorcerer himself is the one commanding everything, but we later find out that the brawn was just pretty much going along with the flow and just pretending that he was completely brain dead. It's rather curious, but we find that out during the end time, so a lot of people don't take that as canon. Now, as it works, the Cursling is known as a melee/spellcaster hybrid. Very powerful spellcasting, because obviously that's what the parasitic twin is, but also incredibly good at melee combat. This is one of the characters that you wouldn't have too much of an issue taking up to the front line and just letting them do their damage. The lore of this character is actually quite sad. You see, both of them were born as normal twins. They weren't attached to each other. One was healthy and strong, and the other was tiny and weak. Born to an Norscan tribe, both of these guys would grow up and try to actually fulfill their role in society. The strong one obviously became a very powerful warrior, whereas the weaker one became an apprentice to the tribe's shaman. The stronger twin would of course bully the weaker twin. That's something that you can imagine is very common with siblings and so on, but also worse so when it comes to a Norscan tribe which had devoted themselves to chaos. The weaker twin would work his machinations and pray to the Lord of Change that their roles be reversed, But, of course, with the whole usual Tzeentchian Justice Planned movement, instead of reversing their roles, they had simply been conjoined. It's at this point that Village found himself to be near enough unstoppable. Village is the name of the parasitic twin, and Foreman is the name of the stronger twin. So with his newfound strength, Village decided to go on a bit of a rampage and basically destroy the tribe which used to bully him. So it's the usual trope of, you decided to bully me for being weak and now I'm stronger now, so I'm getting my revenge. He'd be a great character for, say, the Warriors of Chaos, as he was actually featured in the Warriors of Chaos army book, and it would be cool to see him implemented. We know that Creative Assembly are able to make much more complex models, so this is easy enough to do, I'm assuming. We can't have a list about Tzeentchian characters without perhaps talking about one of the most infamous ones throughout the Empire. This is Igrim van Horseman. A character who had infiltrated the Order of Light, and, well, he was there for a long time. You'd imagine that a Chaos Cultist would not be able to be within the Colleges of Magic without being detected, but yet his power was so strong that he was able to remain there for a decent amount of time, learning many secrets and getting a hold of many artifacts that most Chaos Warriors would only dream of. Yet, Igrim was one of the very, very few which was extremely competent at his work, going as far as even swearing his allegiance to the Supreme Patriarch, and still nobody knew what exactly he was planning. So powerful and so very Tzeentchian is this sorcerer that he's also formed a cult known as the Cabal. Well, it's more of an organization which holds sway over many different chaotic cults throughout the Warhammer Fantasy world. His influence is practically everywhere. Igrim had a lot of lore, especially for a character which was introduced very early into the franchise of Warhammer Fantasy and then was not really mentioned much after, but still, this is a character which is so incredibly liked by the community, it would be a shame not to have him. His biggest claim to fame is something rather impressive too. As he was studying through the Colleges of Magic, he also was whispered the name of a very powerful Chaos Dragon that laid in a prison underneath. Bodros, formerly known as Splinterwing, had been imprisoned underneath the College of Light, and this is something which happens with very powerful demons which they can't really banish, but they want to keep as weakened as possible so they can't really be a threat. Igrim managed to free the dragon and make his escape from it, and that was pretty much around the time that everyone had already known that he was a Chaos Cultist, so he can obviously never return to the Empire again, but he had already learnt all the secrets he could learn and found a massive dragon that now serves as his mount. He would fit rather well for the Tzeentchian faction, and honestly, he's cool. I honestly think he would be really fun, and we could see him in some way, shape, or form. From what you can imagine already is that there's not that many Tzeentchian characters. In fact, the most that were ever introduced for Warhammer Fantasy in terms of Chaos was mostly Nurgle and Khorne. So when a rare character like this pops up, it's something that we could see for Tzeentch, especially when the fact is, we've only got one Legendary Lord so far, and we're gonna need more. It would be a massive shame if we barely had any proper demons or proper Chaos Warriors of devoted gods and so on. And lastly, we're gonna talk about two characters, Melik and Cespef. It's kinda important to have them both together as it's a father and son duo, so it's kinda cool. So Melik is the one on the left, Cespef is the one in the right. Both of them were introduced in the Storm of Chaos campaign, and as you can imagine, this was when Archaon was looking for lieutenants, each devoted to some of the Chaos gods, so he may have a true undivided force. Melik joined Archaon as the Herald of Tzeentch, as you can imagine, and they waged bloody war. Eventually, however, Melik was slain, and Cespef took over as the Lieutenant of Tzeentch. The mutations, as you can imagine, are very obvious that he's very Tzeentchian. Now, the really cool thing about these characters is that they don't really have a lot of lore, and that actually works in their favor, as these could be introduced as a legendary lord and hero duo for Norsca, more than anything Norsca, because we haven't actually said anything works for Norsca just yet, and these are the only ones, I'd say. Melik himself was once a blacksmith of the Aisling tribe, and we know that the Aislings are in the Warhammer Total War series, so it would be kind of cool if we had this, as, well, Norsca needs a rework, let's be very, very honest about that, and it would be interesting if we had a Spellcaster Lord on a Disc of Tzeentch. He's also got his own unique look. We referenced this when we were talking about the whole reskin issue with Tzeentch. So it would be cool if we had this character and then his son as a legendary hero, as that way we can start getting some divided factions for Norsca too. It just makes sense because, well, Norsca right now plays as a Chaos cult, which they shouldn't, in all honesty. Norsca is supposed to be much less all Chaos style and a bit more normal human, but you know. So if they're gonna make Norsca flat out evil, why not have some divided factions in Norsca? We only have 2 legendary lords at the moment, Frog and Wolfric, and it would be nice to have more start positions. Not only that, but just something different rather than baseline melee lords. Plus, a father and son duo is kind of cool, because that means that you get 2 awesome looking characters, let's be very honest about that, and yeah, why not? But that's pretty much it in terms of Tzeentch. However, we have spoken about many different characters which are fairly unique towards each other, so it's not like we're going to get the same thing over and over and over again. There are a lot more other named Chaos Demons mostly, but keep in mind that they're mostly Lords of Change, so the last thing you want is just like 7 different playable Lords of Change, which are gonna, in theory, have the same style of gameplay, and most of them only have like, what, 2 sentences of worth of lore? So these characters that I've discussed either have their own army book entry, their own model, or their own novel, so they're actually really well known throughout the franchise. What do you think about these characters, and where do you think that they should go? I think the majority of them are going to go to the Demons of Chaos or the Warriors of Chaos roster, but it would be nice to have one for Norsca at the very least, which is why I said Melik would work very well there. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and let's start a bit of a discussion. I'm rather curious to see what you guys think, as obviously Tzeentch is a hot topic right now with the whole recolor issue, which I imagine Creative Assembly might be thinking about changing, but we have to think about other things too, and we right now have no information regarding Tzeentch whatsoever, barring that of, well, they're there. Everything's just being cafe, and it's being kind of repeated constantly. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various links to different social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and Discord. Also in the description section is an affiliate link with Element Games, where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Making a purchase using that link and also our special code, which is also in the description, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A big thank you to Gibraltar LUSC, Ryan Bertsche, Andrew Prince, and Okro for subscribing to us at our Fane level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Yule, VS Vasan, Aaron Whitman, and Shaggy for subscribing to us at our King level. Honestly, we can't thank you all enough. And lastly, a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing, and commenting on these videos. Honestly, it's because of you guys that the channel's been growing at such a great pace lately, so we can't thank you all enough. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.